Planning to discuss one of the security areas, right? The web in the sense browser, so web browser related security aspects, right? And the users, right? So we are the users, we are accessing browsers day-to-day activities, right? So while we are dealing with the web browsers, we have so many risks, right? We are facing high level of risk to steal the information, right? So we are planning to discuss those things today, right? Okay, this is the content what I am planning to discuss today, right? So we will look at some attacks, right, against the browsers, right? So if we are using browsers, what are the different types of attacks they are uh, conduct using the browsers, right? The fake and malicious website attacks targeting sensitive data, right? The attacks, how they are target the sensitive data, injection attacks, SQL injection attacks, spam emails, identification, and the characteristics of spam emails, as well as phishing attacks, right? So these are the content we are planning to discuss today, right? Okay, tell me, uh, what do you think about the browsers you are using? Is it secured or the security is a question? What do you think? Each and every one we are using browsers, right? So what do you think about the security of your browsers? Tell me, what do you think about your security of your browsers? We are using web browsers, right? So what do you think? Is it 100% secure?
Awesome.
Why?
Our info stored temporarily using cookies or payments our
What are the
information is stored.
vulnerabilities? What are the vulnerabilities in the browsers?
A
Or what
third
are the
party
weaknesses in the browsers? Tell me.
third party cookies we use in that that may be vulnerable in
Your
some
voice is
cases.
not clear. Speak loudly.
Third party cookies we use in our
Yeah,
web browser.
we are using so many third party plugins, right? So we are using so many extensions to reduce the complexity of the work what we are doing, right? So maybe that is one of the reasons to do attacks or steal the sensitive information from our web browsers, right? So likewise, we have different vulnerabilities in the web browsers what we are using, right? So that is the major reason nowadays. The browser is a browser plays a major role for steal security aspects or steal personal information, right? So throughout the browsers, uh, they are uh, they are doing some vulnerable code. So they are doing all the uh, attacks based on the web browsers, right? So we will look at one by one. So now we will look at yeah, but yeah. Now we will look at what are the challenges that lead to browser security issues, right? So we already discussed browser plays a major role for security attacks and uh, threats, right? So now we will look at what are the numerous challenges. Those challenges leads to browser security issues, right? So if you look at, right, browser has the facilities, we can concurrently access different number of pages, right? So different number of resources we can access, right? So it means in a single browser, we have opened different number of uh, tabs and we are doing different works, right? So that is a one important challenge we are facing. Why? So maybe you are using browsers. One page you are logging with your emails. One page you are watching the YouTube videos. One page for you maybe you are doing some bank transaction sometime. Likewise, we are using different number of user tabs. It means different number of works we are concurrently doing with the web browsers. That is one of the big challenge we are facing to attacks. How? how it becomes a challenge. Maybe even we are open more number of browser windows and we will do different works, right? It is not a good practice, right? So it is not a good practice in the sense, right? So maybe if you are doing some sensitive data transmissions or if you are doing some online banking activities, it is not a good practice. You are open different browser windows and you can do different concurrent tasks. Why? Tell me the reason. That is what I am expecting.
Maybe
We are
other tips,
using. Hmm?
maybe other tips, maybe intruders come to access our data, like transmitting our data.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe if you are accessing one and another page, they have some bots, so they have some bugs to uh, capture the information we are using in next page, right? Also, the browsers are connected with cache memories, right? The cookies, right? So if you are using different number of web pages, right, those pages are connected through the web browser cookies, right? So sometime what will happen? Maybe now you are before 1 or 2 minutes ago, you log into your personal account and you do some transaction, right? Those cookies also available in the browsers, right? So if you are planning to do some other unwanted things, or maybe if you are doing some website access that is not a authenticated one, so at the time, what will happen if you try to do some works with that unauthorized web page? Sometimes they will steal your cookies and they will find some of the sensitive information throughout the pages, right? So that's why we are telling we are accessing more number of browser windows at concurrently. It also a big challenge for a security attacks, right? Also, right, like nowadays we are using a single page websites, right? Most of the pages, web pages, they are using single page websites by using different synchronization techniques. They are extracting different information from different pages, right? So let's say if you are try to enter a URL, right, that URL extract information from different site, different locations, different URLs, they can extract different information, right? That is also a one challenge nowadays we are facing. Sometimes maybe if you open one particular web page, there we are getting some of the advertisements, right? We are getting some of the videos are playing, right? So it means they are fetching different information from different locations, right? The different locations they extract information and they visible in a web browser, right? That is also one big challenge for security attacks, right? Because maybe if they are getting 10 or 15 different locations to extract the information, we don't know what are the things they are extracted from those all 10 or 15 different URLs, right? So that is a one reason for some attacks are happen, right? Sometimes the browser software we are installing a browser software that must be have some by default they have some malicious code, so there are some corruptions, right? That is also one reason, right? Maybe if you're downloading a browser, you need to think about that browser's trustworthiness, right? So whether the browser is released by the particular organization, right? The defined standard organization or some unwanted people or some unauthorized people try to give that softwares, right? So maybe some did you heard about GB WhatsApp?
Yeah, sir.
So what do you think about the WhatsApp and that one?
They have kept that WhatsApp. We don't guarantee our data is safety or not
Still
because
stolen. There are so many things, right? So they give more features, right? If you are using GB WhatsApp, they are giving more advanced features compared with the WhatsApps, right? But the problem here, we don't know whether they have steal our information, how they are record the information. We don't know, right? So that is one of we cannot believe the trustworthiness, right? We cannot guarantee whether they are appropriate or that the standard that the legalized company or not, right? So we cannot say, right? So similarly, the browsers also they have same features, right? So if you are installing a browser, you need to get that download from a trustworthy organization or that is a uh, standard organizations, right? So if you fail, sometimes they what will happen? Some of the attackers they download that same browser engines. They can reverse engineering. They can apply some reverse engineering techniques and they will get this base code and then they will do some modifications, right? So maybe sometime if you try to log in a particular web page, they that browser send a copy of that details for that particular email IDs, the hackers' email IDs. That is also possible, right? So that's the some easiest ways they try to attack the or steal the personal information throughout the web browsers, right? Also nowadays we are using so many extensions, right, to reduce the complexity of the task we are install or we are adding. There are and more number of different browser extensions, right? So we don't know whether that is released by authorized parties, right? So let's say maybe we are using Mendeley extension for research works, right? So the Mendeley or Zotero extensions we are using for referencing tools as a extension for web browsers, right? So maybe if you are, go through a particular IEEE paper, then once you click that extension, it will automatically extract the information, right, related to the papers, authors, details, and everything, right? So that is we can use for reduce the complexity of the task, right? So, but we don't know whether that extension is released by the proper company, right? So, if it means proper institution means the Mendeley, that organization Mendeley, if they release that extension, we can believe, right? Because they are the service provider. Mendeley is a services provided for referencing styles and referencing tools. If they release that extensions, we can guarantee the security and other aspects, right? Sometime what will happen, the hackers also create or mimic the same extension similar to that Mendeley extension, but they are uh, in the internally they will hide the some commands or codes to steal your information, right? So that is also one big challenge, right? Nowadays browsers we are included n number of different extensions, right? The extensions we cannot guarantee all the extensions are released from authorized people. That is also one big challenge now we are facing for attacks throughout the web browsers. Likewise, yeah, another thing, right? Maybe I don't know whether you consider you completed service-oriented web architecture that REST APIs, right? Did you complete that one? REST and SOAP APIs with practicals.
No, sir, didn't start the practical, it's still ongoing.
Is it? Is it? Then how you can complete your practicals?
Now, sir, only the soap request will be studied and just do the small
Yeah.
practical.
Okay. So RESTful, like I don't know whether did you use that Postman tools likewise?
We use,
API creation.
yeah,
So
sir,
it
we use
used to
the soap
backend
integration.
testing, right?
So we open
Yeah.
software.
So at the time maybe sometime you can enable the course origin policies, right? Why? Do you have experience? Maybe in that uh, browser window, you can enable course cross origin resource sharing policies. Enable by default
Yeah,
that
sir,
is this. Any experience?
file access command, sir, the Chrome access the files in our local files. That command, sir, you
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah, normally, right, the browsers have the facilities to maybe not now. Previously, by default, the browsers has facilities to access your local storage and get the files, right? That is not a good practice, right? So maybe the important thing here, the web, if you are using the web browsers, if you click something, right, maybe that browsers can redirect some other pages, so they will redirect some specific location in your local PCs, and they can extract the files from your systems, right? So that is not a good practice. Because of that, nowadays by default the browsers, all the browsers are disable that CORS policies, right? CORS means CORS, cross origin resource sharing policies are by default they are disabled, right? So it means the browsers they cannot access maybe throughout the browser URLs we cannot access the local file systems, right? So now all the browsers are implement those things, but before 10 years back that is uh, not a practice, right? Not a practice in the sense at the time they can allow to access your local files throughout the browser URL. So, right? So now what will happen? That is they are explaining, right? The browsers can access any data on your users' computers, right? So nowadays, by default, that is not enabled, right? But anyhow, maybe if you're running some scripts, right, some vulnerable scripts, they can do those enabling process, right? So sometimes if you download some movies from ID, some torrent sites or something, again and again it will redirect to different pages, right? Why they are doing those things? Actually, that is one type of attacks, right? They try to do something. If you go through that, their scripts and everything, right? Another thing, that type of attackers, they write the script in a bulk amount, right? So bulk amount means, but one only a single line of script, but they are using there are thousands of lines to hide that exact meaning, right? So it means they're writing some comments and there are so many things. There is a bulk paragraph. Inside that paragraph, in the middle of that line, it will do that execution. So even if you go through that scripts, it's very difficult to find out the unwanted or vulnerable scripts, right? So that course policy is also a big challenge because of the browsers, right? If the course storage and resource sharing policies are enabled, the hackers, they can steal your information very easily without worrying anything, right? So that's why nowadays by default browsers are disabled those course policies, right? Cross origin resource sharing policies are by default, it will disable. But if you are doing some testing purposes, right? If you are testing your software, we need to enable the course policies and we need to do the testing, right? Another another challenge for the attacks happen throughout the browsers, right? The data transmission is invisible. If you are uh, if you are accessing a web page, we cannot visible the data transmissions by default, right? So if you want, you can go to the inspect elements, go inside the networking uh, tab. Inside the networking tab, you can find out the data transmission and other details. Otherwise, by default, if you are trying to access a particular web page, we cannot find out whether the data transmission is going on or not, right? So it is invisible features in all browsers, right? These are some of the reasons the hackers using to attack throughout the web browsers, right? So if the set of features considered as a big challenge for attacks happen throughout the web browsers, right? So if you look at the vulnerabilities in the web browsers, right, from 2014 up to 2021, right, this is the statistic done by a research, right, the vulnerabilities in the web browsers, right? So just look at here. Anyhow, more always we are facing vulnerabilities in different web browsers, right? So we cannot avoid or we cannot say we our browsers is 0% vulnerable, right? Even your browser is uh, genuine, but maybe just think about if you are add some or if you add the extension throughout the extension, your browser uh, trustworthiness becomes zero, right? So always your browsers have vulnerabilities, the weaknesses to happen some attacks, right? So you need to get aware of those knowledge, right? So now we will look at browser attacks. So we already explained, right? So throughout the browsers nowadays, attackers steal your information, right? Now, if you are do a payment or if you are try to log in with your bank account details, right? So the browsers catch contain for certain amount of period some of the information, at least your account details and some other aspects are stored in the cache, right? In the cache, it included some of the important aspects, right? So now what will happen? The hackers try to extract or find out those cache memories and extract the information, right? But that the people who don't have the technical knowledge, they think the browser is not a vulnerable aspect, right? So let's say just think about you are reading a book, right? You are reading a book, physical book, right? Now what will happen? There is no anything, everything is disclosed inside the book. uh, ex, uh, there is no any hidden things, right? If you look at the physical book, right, so you need to read out page by page, right? There is no any hidden things inside the book. But if you think about the web browsers, right? Let's say the same book you can access throughout the web browsers. What do you think about these two things? There is no any attack happens if you are reading the physical books, right? But the people who don't have lack of technical skills, they think that web browser is similar to the book, right? If you are get something, some information, the same way how we are getting from the browsers, getting from the physical books, but not the case, right? So what I'm telling here, right? If you are accessing a web page, inside the web page there are so many URLs are attached, right? So sometimes they are redirect to different pages, right? So sometimes if you click something, but that it will redirect some other unwanted pages or some other uh, illegal pages, right? The thing here, the people, they are not aware the risk of web browsers, right? So sometimes they try to log in their sensitive accounts, right? They will do transactions. They think there is nothing happen. If it is a browser, mean just the we will access the information. But internally, they that browsers contain there are so many risk activities, right? So sometimes if you access a web page, we don't know. We cannot analyze all the URLs associated with that particular web page, right? Maybe sometimes that URL, one URL that redirect to some other URLs, right? So once you click a particular link, it will redirect to another page, that page redirect to some other pages. And likewise, there are so many risks we have with the web browsers, right? Now we will look at what are the different types of browser attacks, right? So now just we will explain some common things, right? Now we will look at maximum of 4 or 5 different types of attacks happen throughout the web browsers, right? Tell me if you have any examples attacks it's happened throughout the web browsers. Tell me some example attacks they will conduct throughout the web browsers.
Does that make sense?
Sorry,
Does that make
yeah, DOS attacks. Yeah, DOS attack in the sense they will try to send a request, bulk amount of request to the server, right? Did you heard about keyloggers? That is one type of attack happen for browsers. Keyloggers. Anyone heard about this term? Keyloggers. What is this? Anyone heard about the term keylogger?
awesome?
Okay, then we will look at, right. So the keylogger in the sense, let's say maybe if you are using a laptop or computer, if you type anything, that keyloggers they will track the things, right? That is one of the maybe we will explain, right? Yeah. First, we will look at what are the different types of attacks, right? So yeah, these are the 5 major categories of attacks happen for browsers, right? So if you are using a browsers, these 5 types of attacks happen uh, throughout the browsers, right? Man in the browsers, keystroke loggers, page in the middle, program download substitutions, user in the middle, right? So we can categorize all the attacks into between these 5 types, right? So whatever the browser attacks happen, we can categorize between these one of the 5 different types of attacks, right? Okay, now we will look at one by one. Okay, the first one, man in the middle, sorry, man in the middle browser. Okay, just read about this and tell me. Just read about this paragraph and tell me. Just read about the paragraph and tell me what do you mean by this man in the middle, man in the browser attack. Tell me what do you mean by
It's
this man in the browser attack?
passing the user entered value to attackers. Whatever the user enter, it will pass that credentials to the attacker. Then attacker will use that information to do do their things.
Okay, just think about right. Maybe let's say normally if we are doing the financial transactions, they are using HTTPS, right? Secured HTTP, right? So what do you mean by secured HTTP? HTTPS
And
means what?
encryption transactions.
Yeah, the transaction happen encrypted way. Then how they will steal? Can you explain that one? Even the hacker look at that encrypted message. Then how he can extract? Oh, but something differently happened here. Tell me what is happened here. Man in the browser attacks means there are some malicious codes, right? So some bugs or some Trojan horses, right? They will share that sensitive information to the hackers, right? So how it will happen? But normally, if you are doing that bank transaction or financial transactions, the banks they are using secured HTTP. HTTPS means hypertext transfer protocol. HTTP secured HTTP means they are happen throughout the encrypted communication. Communication happen throughout the encrypted channels, right? Then how they will share the information? There are some justification. Tell me.
What website said same as the code websites
Sorry.
as the while clicking the link, first it will go to the fake website. Likewise, they can get the information. Uh, First didn't
Mhm.
it didn't the original website. First it did to the fake website. So that they can get data.
Okay, I will explain, right? So in the man in the browser attack in the sense, right? Let's say now you are doing a online transaction, right? You are logging to your particular bank online bank sites, then you enter the username and passwords, right? Then you enter and you can do the money transfer. For that one, you need some OTP or some other password. So there are so many things you need, right? So those communication happen throughout the encrypted channel, right? So they are not steal the information in the middle of the communications, right? Did you understand? So if they attack throughout the communication channel, communication medium, wired or wireless medium, they will use for that attack. That is a different scenario, right? But now they are using only the browsers, right? So it means the in the if they attacks or if they hack your sites throughout the communication channel in the sense the communication happen as an encrypted channel, right? They are not doing that way, right? They are doing even before that encrypted communication starts, right? So it means they will install some malicious codes into your browser, right? Those browsers are extract the information throughout your operating systems, right? Throughout your keyboards, right? Throughout the operating system and the keyboard keys you are entering, they serve your informations, right? They in their bot or in their vulnerable software, they will serve those information. Once you connect it to the internet, they will pass those information to the particular attackers, right? So that is it is different from that uh, encrypted communication, right? Normally, if that communication happen throughout the encrypted channel, even that hackers, if they steal the information, they can't do anything with the data, right? But now what will happen before you, let's say you try to enter the username and password for your online banking sites. Once you hit enter, then only it will start the communication throughout the encrypted channel, right? Before you hit enter, right? Once you type the username and password, it will record the things. it will record your username and password in that bug, in that malicious software. It will serve those informations. Maybe even if your connection is available, it will send those information to the attackers, right? So that's the thing happen in the main in the browser attacks, right? Did you understand? So they're explaining
Yeah.
those things here. Yeah. So if it is a SSL and HTTPS, that is happen throughout the encrypted channels, right? But what will happen before starting the encrypted communication, they will serve the information and share with that particular hackers, right? So that's the thing happen. So just read these things for understanding. I explained here, right? So normally what will happen? So maybe your communication, just think about your bank is secured, right? The bank communication is secured, right? But because of your lack of awareness about the weaknesses in the browsers, you steal your informations, right? Did you understand here? Maybe the bank, they will establish secured connections, right? They establish the things, right? They establish a secured connection so that data transmission happen between the users as well as the servers, the bank servers throughout the encrypted channels, right? There are very less number of probability they can do the attacks and steal the information. Even if they steal the information, that is an encrypted message, right? They can't get any information. But because of your lack of awareness about the browser weaknesses, what will happen if someone do this man in the browser attacks? They can steal your informations, right? So that is the thing happen normally. Maybe we are downloading some movies or something free. If you are get anything from internet as a free, that is not actually free, right? So by internally they extract or they get some information, so they get something from you because of your usage or because of your feedbacks, whatever. If you are get anything free from the internet, actually that is not a free, right? They're getting something from you. That is a hidden information. If you are we remember, if you are using the internet, right? So if you look at this man in the browser scenario, right? The bank, they establish a secured connections, right? They guaranteed the security of the transaction. But even we, as a lack of technical skills and technical knowledge, we don't aware that browser attacks and that type of bugs and other things. What will happen if you are try to log into a username and password, and if you do some transactions, those informations, because of our weakness, because of our lack of knowledge, we share those information to the hackers, right? So that's the thing happen if you fail to aware these browser attacks, right? So this is the main in the browser attacks, right? So just look at here in this diagram. Sorry, in this diagram, right? Let's say this is the user's computer, right? This is maybe the server, right? This is the server computer, right? This is the user, right? So this communication between the users and servers happen throughout the encrypted channels, right? So the encrypted channel, this communication happen. But in this laptop, that user's laptop, if there are anything installed, in any bugs or any vulnerable softwares are installed, those softwares can uh, continue this man in the browser attacks. Because of this man in the browser attacks, what will happen? They will be a victim of this type of attacks, right? So now let's say this is an example. Silent banker is a bug, right? So this bug record the important information about the financial things or some of the login credential. Those credential are served for this bug before you can continue this encrypted transaction, right? So these bots or these vulnerable softwares are extract the information from the operating systems and keyboard accesses. Then they will record the things and send it to the hackers, right? So it will send to the hackers, right? So this is an example diagram, right? So so even if your communication is encrypted, we cannot guarantee about the browsers, right? If your browser have vulnerabilities, maybe because of that also you are facing some of the attacks, right? So keep in mind that, right? So hereafter, if you are install any extensions or any add-ons for your browsers, think about the trustworthiness of the browsers, right? Maybe if you are installing a web browser extension from one of the well-reputed parties or well-reputed organizations, or that organization provide a particular service, they are giving their verified extensions. You don't need to worry about. Otherwise, if you are using some free extensions to reduce the complexity of the task we are done, it is your own risk, right? You are doing your own risk to complete the transaction, right? So keep in mind that that is the first one, right? This next one, key stock loggers, key stocks or key loggers, right? So key stock loggers or key loggers, right? So I already explained, right? So key logger is just nothing. There are some programs, right? There are lightweighted programs or lightweighted software modules, right? They will record all the keyboard entries, right? Maybe whatever the things you are typing by using the keyboard, everything is recorded, right? Then maybe your system is connected to the internet, those key logs, right? The key activities you type, everything is sent to the users, right? Users in the sense the hackers, right? So it will send to the hackers. Hackers get the file and just they will do some analytical things and they will find out your username, passwords, and some other user credential. Try to do some unwanted things with your systems, right? So that is we can call keys logger, key stock logger or key loggers, right? Just read this. Any questions? Any questions? So just nothing. That is a hardware component or software components, and it will record all the key entries you enter by using a user keyboards of throughout the input device. If you type or enter something, all the things are recorded and it will send to the hackers. Sorry. Okay. The third one, page in the middle. What do you mean by page in the middle?
Without redirect to the targeted page, it will be redirect to the different pages many
Yeah,
times.
yeah. In the middle, if you type or if you enter something, it will redirect some unwanted or unsecured pages, right? In the middle of the communication, or if you click something, if you click an event, it will redirect to different pages. It is also similar to the man in the browser attacks, right? So maybe just think about, right? You try to log in by using a username and password, right? Now, once you click that sign in button, but already by default that genuine sign in button is there, right? Maybe they will do some bugs or some vulnerable codes, right, above that sign in button. Once you click that one, it will also log into that site, as well as it will redirect to another page. That page maybe redirect to another page in the sense the previous page information you entered, that can be captured and it will share to some of the places, right? That's the thing happen, right? Maybe if you practice with web development, right? What will happen if you're writing a PHP site, extract the information from that username and password blocks, right? The text blocks, you can extract the information and we will run the query to check with that backend database, right? Similarly, if you are if you are writing a bug page in the middle, in the sense once you click the button, that button trigger some of the events or functions. That function can extract the uh, information, the username, passwords, those text field information, and it will send those information to a particular email, the hacker's email, right? So now what will happen, hacker get your details and they try to log in your sites, right? Page in the middle, in the sense if you try to click the page or events, it will redirect to different pages, right? Just read this example. Okay, yeah, the next one, program download substitution. This one also you have familiar. What is that? Maybe if you download something in the background, they will download some other programs, right? So those programs are vulnerable, or those programs are some of the uh, vulnerable softwares, right? How we can avoid these type of things? So maybe if you try to agree to install the softwares, internally it will install some other softwares too, right? So those softwares are vulnerable softwares. Because of that, we are getting some difficulties or challenges, or they will steal the information, right? How we can avoid these things? Tell me. How we can secure, or how we can protect from these type of browser attacks? What is the first thing you need to do for your PCs or laptops?
Defender, see,
Sorry.
Defender, we see Windows Defender like
Yeah, maybe
antivirus.
you can use some of the softwares, right? So the virus scanning softwares, right? Uh, Even nowadays, that software also we are using cracked versions, right?
Sir,
Anyone
Windows
have any
Defender is
experience?
inbuilt,
Yeah,
sir.
Windows Defender is inbuilt, right?
Inbuilt, yes,
Right.
sir.
Maybe otherwise you need to purchase some commercialized version, right? McAfee, or maybe you can use likewise Avast, or some of the commercialized version of that protection softwares. Right now, what they will done, if try to install some other softwares in the background, they will not allow to do those installation process. Because of that, we can save, or we can secure from these type of those attacks, right? Otherwise, what will happen if you don't have anything, any countermeasures to protect from these type of things? Uh, if you are using some of that vulnerable things happen, they cannot find out, right? Even nowadays, what will happen? We are purchasing cracked versions of antivirus softwares, right? I don't know what is the use of that one. If you are using the cracked version of that virus cards, definitely that virus card also have some vulnerabilities and weaknesses about your system. So maybe they will steal the information, right? So keep in mind those things. So the program download substitution means maybe you are click to download a particular movie, but in the middle they will download some of the extensions or some of the vulnerable aspects. Those aspects can corrupt your systems, or sometimes they will steal your systems. Anything happen, right? We don't know. We cannot guarantee the uh, integrity of that code base, right? Maybe if you're downloading a movie, maybe at approximately it will take 10 to 15 minutes, right? So between those 10 to 15 minutes, they can do a lot, right? In the background, there are so many things they can do even if they download your softwares, right? So hereafter, just be aware if you download something from that internet, right? Movies or whatever that dramas or whatever you are downloading throughout the internet, just keep in mind that the security, is there anything happen in the background, right? So that is we can call program subs download subs. What do you mean by user in the middle? So tell me, most of the time, what is the purpose of this captchas?
Identify the human or robots,
Robots, right? How they will identify?
like typing patterns or input uh, clicking patterns, like they will identify whether it is robots or humans.
Yeah, the time taken for enter the codes, right? So how the vision of the human is totally different, right, from that computer visions, right? So based on the letters you predict from these captchas, they will find out, right? This is also a type of attacks, right? How? Tell me. This is also nowadays considered as a type of threat. How?
Maybe it's like an induction code or something. Whether we entered automatically, the attack will be happen.
Yeah, let's say sometimes what will happen, right? The hackers, they will ask you some permissions, right? So in the background, they will do something, and they will ask you try to enter these codes, right? So now what will happen if you try correctly? It indicates you have approved to do the things, right? So that's the meaning of that one, right? So maybe while you are filling the forms, they will do something, right? They will do something in the sense they will try to sign in with the hackers page or something from this information you are entered to that genuine page, right? Once you type these captcha characters, then what will happen? Automatically, it will allow you to sign into the systems, right? That is one way it considers a attack. Another way, these captchas nowadays used by different people, right? So just we think this captchas coming for the purpose of verification, whether it's a human or machine try to log into the system. Human login or machine-based logins, right? The automated system try to login or human login. That is the reason why we are used to introduce these captchas. But nowadays, these captchas are used for some other research purposes, right? So those who are doing researches based on the computer vision on human vision, now they uses those data, right? Let's say they will visualize some images based on the images. What are the information you extracted correctly? So they are using those data for some research purposes, right? So keep in mind, this is also considered as a type of attack nowadays, right? So these are the 5 different types of attacks happen for the browsers, right? Okay, now tell me how browser attacks succeed. How the hackers succeed in the browser attacks. How the uh, browser attacks are succeed. Lack of
The vulnerabilities, browsers, vulnerabilities, through that they will succeed.
yeah, these are the 2 reasons, right? First thing, identification, right? If you don't have a clear cut or clear knowledge about that browser attacks and other things, if you notice something abnormal, you give more significance for those things, right? The fail to identification that creates a browser attacks, right? Also the fail to authentications, right? If you fail to authenticate, it is also one reason for the attacks become success, right? So these are the key reasons for the attacks, right? Okay, now we look at authentication in different contexts. Okay, now tell me what are the different contexts we need to authenticate. Okay, just think about you have username and password to log in a particular online banking sites, right? Now, throughout your browser, you try to enter your username and password, right? When the username and passwords are correct, means what? You have a laptop that is a client. The bank, they have some server PCs, right? So we are doing the communication. We are the users. We have a laptop that is a server computer, that is the servers, right? So the server and client communication is happen. So what type of authentication we need to do between these communications?
Two-step notifications, like
What about others? Tell me.
first we check the username and password, sir. Next we want to verify whether the identified person is so that authorized person is doing that. For that we doing the two-step verification. So location section.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's correct. But think about this way, right? So if you do a communication with the bank, right, there are 2 types of authentication we need to do, right? So as a bank, they will authenticate us. Now you need to think about as a users, you need to verify that is from that authenticated bank or not, right? So just think about, is it happen always? 2 types of authentication is happen or not? What do you think? If you're doing those things, maybe based on your user credentials, the bank verify whether you are the authenticated users or not. But as a user, we don't authenticate the bank, right? How we can do those authentications? Can you raise your hands if you're doing those things before you try to log in the sites? Two types of authentication happen or not? So the bank, they authenticate as a user, the bank authenticate whether that appropriate user or not. Based on your user credentials, you try to log in. Right? The bank do the authentication process. As a users, how we authenticate the bank, that online servers before try to do the transactions. Tell me, is it happen?
The transaction happening, sir, but I don't know how to authenticate that.
Yeah, normally just we will go to that online banking site. So maybe directly we can log into the site, right? Maybe we will search BOC online banking. It will give us a list of browser links, right? The browser output gives list of pages. We will click one page and just we can enter the username and password without authenticating the bank servers, right? How we can do those authentications? Tell me.
The certifications of their web pages and the authorization we check, sir, before doing that. The website certified or not.
Yeah, maybe based on the URL, we can do the authentication. How? Based on the URL, we can do the authentication. How?
We can pass some IDs to check whether it is correct or not.
Mm, uh, yeah, first thing you need to check the domain name, right? So if you're running a bank, always the online banking sites also based on the domain names, right? Let's say if it's a BOC, right? They have some standard domain names, right? www.boc.lk, right? So definitely that base domain name is available in the online banking sites too, right? So if you notice some of the variations between the domain name and the base domain name, right? Definitely, anyhow, they will do some more parts in the URL, right? In the later portions of the URL, they will do some slash, some online banking or something, some other URL portions. But anyhow, the base domain name must be the same, right? If something change or something change in the sense, just not the entire name will change. Maybe they are using b.oc, right? boc.lk. They rather than they are using boc.lk, b.oc.lk, something happened, right? So the hackers, they are doing those type of things because the human brain have some psychological aspects, right? So if you learn those things, the functionality of the human brain, right? So just find out how the human brain read the content. Do anyone have an idea how the human brain read the words? How
Starting,
the
starting part.
how the human brain linking the characters in a word and read the sentence? It will check the first letter and the last letter. Then it will, by default, it will create the wordings, right? Create the words based on the content and the connectivity of the previous word. It will do, right? So the human brain look at the first and last characters of words, right? So maybe what will happen if the hackers also, so maybe just think about boc.lk, then some hackers create a site b.oc.lk means your brain read that one as a boc.lk, right? So it will not separate that dot as a different URL, right? So normally, if you are doing those things by carelessly, we can read as a BOC and we try to log in those sites, right? So what I'm telling here, first thing you need to authenticate the browse, the servers, right? So this is the user, right? The machine you are using here, this is the client, right? This is the server, right? The communication happen between the server and the client. The client means this is the users, this is the server. So the server verifies, the server computer verifies your identity, whether appropriate user try to log in our site or not. But as a user, most of the times we fail to verify the servers, right? So server in the sense we try to get the service from that authenticated service provider or not, right? To verify those things, maybe we can check the domain names, right? That is one of the simplest things, right? Another thing, maybe you can access the site from that organization's domain websites, right? That the organization have a ethical website. So ethical means the legal website. From that website, we can find out the online banking facilities login sites likewise, right? So that is the way we need to authenticate, right? So we can do two types of authentication, right? Human authentication and computer authentication, right? So the bank takes steps to authenticate you, right? That is we can call human authentication. But most of the time we are failed to authenticate the bank. That is a computer authentication, server authentication, right? So we need to verify before try to log in or before try to enter the details, whether we are trying to access the appropriate bank. Nowadays, it's very easy to mimic the websites, right? So just think about if someone try to attack your sites or steal your informations, right? Let's say if they ask you to log into your bank online banking sites, they create the fake online banking site exactly same as the uh, genuine site, right? They are not creating so many differences, right? So they are using the exact same copy of the domain site, right? Nowadays, through the browsers, we have that much of facilities, right? So by using the server's file, then you are getting the exact same use of resources for that online banking sites, right? Now, what will happen if you look at just based on the user interface and design, you realize, okay, we are trying to logging with the same genuine URL. But anyhow, the hackers, they will do some tricks to steal your information, right? So always before you try to enter your authentication or user credential with the particular sites, you need to verify whether we try to access the appropriate servers or appropriate bank sites. That is mandatory. You need to check. Okay, now we will look at how we can achieve successful authentication with different features. So previously we look at how we will authenticate the servers, right? The PCs, the server computer, how we can authenticate. Now we will look at how the computer authenticate us as a user authentication. Maybe if you try to fill that online banking application, they are using some of the questions, right? Uh, some hypothetical questions, right? Let's say, what is your maiden name of your mother, which place you birth, which hospital, which what is your uh, school, first primary schools you uh, attend, or likewise they will ask some questions, right? So that is we can call shared secrets, right? By using these shared secrets, they will verify, right? Not always. If you do some mistakes with your user logins or you forgot your information, right? They will double check with these details, right? What is your father's first name? Likewise, right? Which school you go for your grade 5? Likewise, they will ask some of them hypothetical questions, right? Then they will store those information to verify your authenticity, right? One-time passwords, right? OTPs. Nowadays, that is one of the key things they use us, right? So most of the accounts and login credential nowadays they migrate to OTPs, right? So how it becomes secure? Tell me. Even if you enter your username and passwords, right? Now what will happen? Someone can steal your information and try to log in, right? But if they want to log into your sites, OTP plays a major role, right? So OTP indicates, right? Even if someone find out your username and password, they can't enter your system without the OTPs, right? So OTP is another layer of authentication, right? Whether exactly the same user, because for the authentication, OTP accesses, you are giving your personal accounts, right? Your mobile phones, your emails or something, right? So now what will happen? Even someone try to steal your login credential and try to log in. Now at the time, what will happen? your OTP is sent to you, right? Even hacker try to log in, but it will not allow to log into the system. It will send an OTP to the appropriate persons, right? So if that person try to log in, then he uses the OTP. If someone hackers or someone others try to log in, they can't get the OTPs. Because of that, it will block to access the sites, right? So that is one of the key things on OTPs as well as the shared secrets, right? Out of band communication. So out of band communication means for that communication, they are maintain separate channels, right? Maybe if you work on that industries, some tech giants in the world, not startups, right? The tech giants, they are using their own communication bandwidth, right? They are using their virtual private networks, right? So if you want to work for a company, one of the tech giants, right? Maybe in the near future, you will realize if you have an opportunity to work with some of that well-reputed IT industry companies, they are using virtual private networks, right? So if you do anything, it will go throughout their uh, separated communication channels, right? It will not go through directly to the internet, right? So they are defining some security layers through the virtual private network, and throughout the network, all the network traffic communications are happen, right? Because of that, they are monitoring the transaction. So if you share an email, so everything they can monitor because they are using the separate communication channels, right? This is one way we are using to successful the authentication, right? It means, let's say you are working on a Virtusa, right? So just think about, so if you are working on a Virtusa, right? So you cannot try to log into their websites, or maybe you cannot log into the code base, right? So directly by using the internet, right? So if you try to log in the URL directly by using the internet, it will not allow to access the sites, right? So if you want to access the code base, first you need to verify and log in throughout your uh, virtual private networks, right? So you have some specific set of other biometric security features and some key tokens likewise they are giving. By using those things, first you need to connect throughout the virtual private network. After that, it will allow you to log into the sites. Otherwise, if you try to access outside their virtual private network, it will not allow you to access their systems, right? That is one level of security. Similarly, nowadays the banks also they are using these type of things, right? Uh, Similarly, right, the easiest example, right, if you apply for a credit cards or debit cards, right, your card is sent throughout the post, right, but your PIN numbers or your secret keys they are not sending by using the same post code, the postal, right? They are sending your passcodes throughout your email or different medium. What will happen if they are send both information throughout the same medium? If someone steal your card, they will find out their passcode and they will use your accounts for vulnerable purposes, right? So that's why they are using different band of communications, right? Okay, now we will look at web attacks targeting users. So throughout the web browser attacks, what they are targeting? Tell me, what is the purpose of they are doing web browser attacks? What is the major two purposes of doing a web attacks? By using the web browsers, they are targeting some type of attacks. So what is the purpose of those type of attacks?
The information from the user, intentionally they are taking to gain the information.
Yeah, maybe we can categorize all the things into two, right? The one thing, right? They are giving false informations, right? They are giving some fake information and they try to mislead your communications. One way. Another way, they need to observe your sensitive data and they will do some harmful for you, right? Throughout the sensitive information. So it means they will access your sensitive information, they destroy or harmful for you. One way, that is their perspective. Another perspective, they need to mislead or they need to share some false contents or false data with you that leads to your miscommunication or misleading, right? So these are the main two purposes of the web attacks, right? Okay, now we will look at some different types of web attacks. Web attacks in the sense the browser based attacks, right? The fake websites. So nowadays we realize there are so many fake websites are generated, right? If you compare the genuine site as well with the fake sites, both have more number of similarities, right? Approximately 99% fake sites and the genuine sites are similar, matching each others, but they have some certain drawbacks, right? So based on the drawbacks, we need to find out whether it's a fake sites or not, right? So nowadays it's very easy, right? If you have using a web browser, right click the web browser servers. If you click servers, then it will create the exact offline version of your web page, right? Then they are getting the source web HTML files and they will do some modification. They will write their script and they will create the fake websites, right? So it's very easy. Even grade 7 or 8 people nowadays, they are creating, they will do some attacks for websites, right? How? That much of knowledge is enough to do nowadays, right? So fake site means don't think if it's a fake site means totally different, right? Nowadays we have a challenge to differentiate whether it's a fake site or genuine site, right? That much of uh, similarities that same content is using on both genuine and fake sites, right? So that is one type of attacks, right? So if by using the fake sites, what will happen? They will steal your information, right? Or sometimes they will share some fake content with you, right? Fake codes, right? I don't need to explain these things, right? Okay, just think about normally, right? Office 365, we need to purchase maximum of 10,000 per year if you want to use the offline versions, right? Now you are getting an advertisement, right? Office 365 version, maybe Office 365 version number, maybe Office 365 latest version for 2 years, you need to pay a maximum of 100 rupees. So if they're giving that software for 100 rupees in the sense, that is not possible to give for that money, right? Even if they introduce some community projects, they will give you those softwares. Microsoft, if they introduce some any community programs, they give those softwares free of charge. Otherwise, if some companies or some individuals, they are selling those softwares for very less amount of money, it is not actually the same Office 365 software, right? So they are giving some of the vulnerabilities and they are crack the codes. Those things can steal your information, right? So keep in mind that fake codes, right? Fake softwares, right? So the third one, web bugs and tracking bugs. So I don't need to explain those things, right? Bugs. Anyone have an experience this type of bugs where you can experience with this type of web bugs or tracking bugs? So normally the web bugs are using for the advertisement purposes, right? Okay, just think about maybe you are using some of the websites to download some movies or some contents, right? So at that time, they have some buttons, download buttons, right? So once you click that download button, it will redirect to some other pages. How it will do the redirections, right? So already by default, right, you have some buttons, right? If you look at here, right, by default, this is the button for download, right? So above this download button, they are creating a layer that is a button layer, right? For that button, they are not giving any color. That button is a transparent button, right? That button is a transparent button. Now, what will happen if try to log in before it will click this download button? This transparent button is redirect to some other advertisements or some other purposes, right? Maybe if you're using some of that movie download or some other large file download sites, you experience this type of things, right? Bug checking, right? Okay, click jacking. What do you mean by click jacking? It is also similar to the previous one, right? The web track. web bugs or tracking bugs, clickjackings. So maybe if you have some questions or pop-up windows, if you click yes or no, even if they click no, by internally there are some hidden questions and they will redirect to some other pages, right? Clickjacking. So just read the content, right? Drive-by downloads. Maybe if you download some softwares, right, internally they will download some other executable programs, right? Without your permission, users acknowledgement, they try to install some of the softwares if you download some content from the internet, right? That is we can call drive-by downloads, right? Even if you download something by internally, it will do another downloads or another requirement or plugins downloads without your approvals, right? That is we can call drive-by downloads, right? Okay, now we will look at how we can obtain the user data or website data, right? So if someone is running a dynamic website, from that website, how we can look at some of the important contents or some of the sensitive information, how we can extract by using these type of web browsers, right? So it means you have a website that website is connected to a database, right? That is a dynamic site. So all the retrieve information is connected to the website, right? As a hackers or as an unauthorized guy, I need to look at some of the sensitive information from the site. How I can look at those things? Anyone have any experience or anyone have learn about those things? How you can extract some of the information from some websites? Tell me some example. They already one or two groups did the presentations. They will mention those things. Anyone have experience? Oh, tell me how we can extract. I already told those things many times. How? Cross-site scripting, right? SQL injections. These are some of the example. We can steal the information from the websites or web servers, right? Okay, cross-site scripting, right? So inside the HTML page, right? Once you fill some forms, right? Internally, you will provide some of the scripts, right? So once you enter that command, that scripts are redirect or that scripts are work and send some of the information or it will display some of the informations, right? So cross-site scripting, right? Those who are interested to do some researches or some advanced depth level things, you can go through the cross-site scriptings, right? The SQL injection attacks, right? From the queries, SQL queries, we can comment the query and we will execute some of the contents, right? So if you look at this example, normally, yeah, I will explain the SQL injection with an example, right? So SQL injection means by using the SQL queries, right? SQL, MySQL or SQL queries, right? We try to extract some information from the backend database, or we will destroy some of the databases with the help of some of the commands, right? So if you look at here, right now, tell me what is that SQL query explains, right? Select all from the transaction. Trans is a database where the condition is account number is this one, right? So what they are telling, select all the transactions, right? Let's say for a particular bank account details, they need to list out all the bank transaction happen in that particular account number, right? So that is a SQL query, right? So maybe in your web page, if you want to customize that bank account details or bank account transactions, right? You need to select the date and time, or maybe you can select the account number. Maybe you have more than one account numbers. You need to select one account number. Once you select the account number, it will execute this query and it will retrieve the information from the database and it will display all the transaction in the web browser, right? That is a normally functionality of a web page, right? Now, if you want to implement the SQL injections, what we need to do, right? So in query languages, SQL or MySQL query languages, the apostrophe, right? It is a special character in SQL queries, right? So if you are using single quotes, so not apostrophe, single quotes, right? This is a special character, right, for a query languages, right? So normally this apostrophe we are using to comments, or there are different purposes, right? So now this query is replaced by using this one. Select all from the same transaction where account number. If you look at the condition, what is the condition now? Just look at the condition. What will happen? If you look at this one, tell me what will happen. So previously account number is this one, it will execute. Now what will happen? Where account number is this one. So O means this one, right? So what is that? Maybe we logic, right? Let's say if you are using a greater than 50 or a greater than 70. What is the meaning of this one? Maybe one of the portion of that logic is correct, it is true, right? That's the meaning of that one, right? So if you are we using OR gates means what? Not or both portion of that logic is true, right? Even one portion of the logic is true, it will execute the query. That is the meaning of that one, right? So here what will happen? So we are changing the query as maybe this is true or this is true, right? Even this one true, we can guarantee this is not true because this SQL injection query is done by a hacker, right? The hacker, they don't know exactly this one, right? So anyhow, this is false, but 1 is equal to 1. It's always true, right? 1 is equal to 1. It's always true. So the first portion is false. Second portion, in the middle OR gate is there. The last portion is true. So false and true. The outcome of this one is true. So true means it will display this information, right? So it will display all the transactions. So as a hacker, without know the details of my account number, I can look at these details, right? So that is, we can call SQL injections. Without authorized access, we can look at the content with the help of SQL injection attacks, right? So I don't know, as a hacker, I don't know any details, but I can look at the entire transaction detail by using simple logics, right? So this is, we can call SQL injection attacks, right? So maybe you can try this with some of the web pages, right? Most of the web pages nowadays, they will implement some of the techniques, right? Store procedure statements. Likewise, they are not allowed to use special characters. Likewise, by using different techniques, they will avoid these type of SQL injection attacks. But anyhow, few sites still they are using this type of weaknesses in their web systems, right? That is, we can call injection attacks, right? So maybe you can try this type of injection codes and try to find something. Maybe recently you did a project, right? So for that project, you try to execute these queries, right? Try to execute these queries. Maybe one in some of the login forms, try to execute these queries, right? If you are trying to log in by using these queries, it indicates your site is weak, right? So anyone can steal your information, right? So it means without knowing any details, I can look at the list of transaction, right? So that's the thing. Dot slash, right? Dot slash in the sense, right? Normally, if you are hosting a web page, right? So what will happen? Let's say you have a project folder. Inside the folder, you have many subfolders. Inside the subfolder, we have different web pages, URLs, right? So now dot slash in the sense, if you are using this dot slash, right? So let's say you try to access a particular website, right? You try to access a particular website. Let's say a www.su.ac.lk/admin page, right? /admin page, right? su.ac.lk/admin page, right? This is the URL, HTTP, right? Double slash, right? Now what will happen here, right? Maybe if you are using double slash means this is the admin page, right? Or maybe this is the admin folder. Inside the admin folder, right? Inside the admin folder, here we have a page, index.html page, right? Index.html page, right? Now, rather than we are using this one, right? If you want to find some of the files or some of the resource files, maybe you can use double dot slash instead of this one, right? Now what will happen? Then it will go the directory, previous directory, right? So now if you are inside the admin folder, now because of this URL, it will go the parent folder of this admin folder, right? Inside the admin folder, sometime it will directly show the all the files available in the web page, right? Nowadays, we are doing some of that protection mechanism, right? If you try to enter some of the unwanted URL, so the URL is not exist, it will by default automatically redirect to 404 page, right? We are creating some default not exist page, not found page. Then if someone try to do any URL modifications, it will not allow to go that particular location, but it will redirect to that not found page. Likewise, we can nowadays, we are omitting these type of dot dot slash attacks, right? Okay, the next one. Server side includes, right? So maybe if you communicate with servers, right, there is a special command execute, exec. Maybe nowadays what will happen, if you write a query or if you write a comments to the server, then by using this execute command, maybe you can get some of the server side informations with the help of SSL, server side includes, right? So yeah, the countermeasures of injection attacks. If you are facing an SQL injection attacks, we can do to control these injection attacks, right? So the first way to inject to secure from SQL injection attacks, right? So if you get any input from the user, you need to apply the validations, right? You can apply the filter mechanism, sanitizations, right? Sanitization or filtering in the sense, in the user input, we need to define user input get only numbers and characters. If someone try to enter some special characters, it will not allow to go inside these things, right? So if we need to filter the input parameters. After the input parameters are filtered, it will allow to go inside the execution of the queries, right? Another thing, we are using store procedures, right? Store procedure means rather than we are directly execute the queries, we are getting user inputs as a separate variables, then we can apply that filtering mechanisms. Then only we can pass those parameters to the SQL query. Because of that one also, we can avoid these injection attacks, right? So if you want, if you're planning to become a web developers or web engineers, just learn how the store procedures. Maybe hereafter, if you are write the SQL queries, don't write the SQL queries directly, right? Select all from employees. Yeah, employee ID is equal to maybe within that we can pass the text box dot employee ID dot text box and username. The password is equal to password dot text box. Don't write this type of direct queries. Rather than we are using direct queries, we can use the store procedure mechanisms. Right, you can learn how the store procedures works, right? It means we are separately define the variables, then we can apply that validation mechanism for the variable. After the validation pass, then only we can pass those queries into the SQL statements, right? That's we can call store procedure mechanisms. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, okay, yeah, we have a very short time, right? Try to speed up. Okay, okay, now we will look at the email spam, right? Spam emails. So based on one of the research, they are indicate 90%, 60 to 90% of the emails are spam emails, right? The purpose of the spam emails are varying, right? Maybe some of the emails, they will send you the advertisement purposes, right? Sometimes that the purpose of that the spam emails to execute some malicious codes inside your PCs, right? Some emails, they links for malicious websites, right? So they try to redirect you some malicious websites, or they're doing some advertisement purposes. They will send a spam email. Sometimes they will execute some malicious codes inside your machine, they will send some spam emails, right? How we can control these spams? Maybe we need to define some legal laws against the spam mail creators, right? So we cannot find out the spam mail creators, but we need to define some laws, right? Uh, Maybe normally, if you think about the advertisement purposes, right? Let's say we need to advertise a product X, right? So the people who manufacture the product X, they are the one hire some of the employees or someone to do this spam emails and send to the audience, right? So uh, if we create some laws against those type of organization, now they avoid these type of spam mail creations, right? That is one way. Sometime maybe we can develop some machine learning or AI models nowadays already exist, right? So we will train some model for the email servers. Then if they figure out the spam emails and they block the spam emails, right? The filtering, we can apply email filters to block the spam emails. Sometimes if they block, right, if they provide the limited set of emails access permissions, then they are not using those things to spam attacks. Let's say if you are purchasing an email for an organization, right, they will limit the uh, volume size for each day, right? For each day, you have only 50 emails you can send, right? Now, what will happen? They cannot do, or they can reduce the spam activities to send some emails, right? These are some of the countermeasures for from the same spam emails, right? What do you mean by phishing? What do you mean by phishing attacks?
Stealing information from the ads, the bank details and user credentials.
How we can find out whether it's a spam emails or not? Spam attacks. Sorry, phishing attacks. So we look at what are the characteristics of phishing attacks, right? So how we can find out or how we can identify whether it's a phishing, right? So we look at those things here. So the purpose of phishing, the cyber criminals, right? The attackers try to steal your personal information or your financial informations, or they need to infect the computers, right? So throughout these phishing attacks, right? So sometimes you are getting some urgent mails, right? So you have an offer, just click this button to get the offer, right? So once you click those links, what will happen? By internally, they will try to download some malicious codes inside your systems, or they will steal your information. Sometimes they will ask you try to log in to secure your Gmail account, right? So then, if you without worrying about that authenticity and that phishing things, if you try to click the link and try to provide your username password, those details are stored by someone, right? So they can use those information and they try to log in your site and change the password. Now what will happen? You can't access your site, right? That's happened nowadays normally. So sometimes the phishing in the sense they will get the benefits of some natural events, disasters, or that uh, curiosity for some benefits or that beauty tips. So based on the audience, they will do some different types of phishing attacks, right? Normally, as an academic pupil, they are getting phishing emails. There are so many phishing emails day by day related to publications and so other things, right? Similarly, if it's a ladies, they will introduce some of that beauty creams and some other benefits, promotions likewise, right? If it is a men's, they find out some of the interesting topics and they will send as a phishing, right? So normally, before you click, just think twice. That is the best advice, right? If you're getting an email, first look at the source of the email. Who will send this email, right? Whether that person, the sender is unknown, don't click those or open the mail, right? That's the thing. If that person who sent an email, you know, you aware that sender then you can open, right? Otherwise, don't open those emails, right? So the phishing emails, the phishing email senders, they will use some common baiting techniques, right? So they will send like a system administrator. Your account password is expired. Try to log in and change your password, right? So on that email, they will use some fake logos and fake things, right? So, but anyhow, it will similar to your same DOM admin emails, right? So let's say you have a BOC account, right? So how they will find out those information? If you look at here, right, you are getting a phishing email, right? Most of the phishing email details they are mentioned that is highly related to you. How they will find out those things? Tell me how they will find out whether it's you. Do you have an idea? So normally the web browsers, the caches, the browser histories, right? Why they are using those things? From those information, the browser caches, they will extract your personal details, which when you have an account, everything they can find out, right? So based on those things only, they will do this type of phishing attacks, right? So let's say based on the cookies or based on the previous cookies, they will find out this particular user have a BOC online account. So now they will try to do a phishing attacks. Your account password is expire by today 1:30. Right now they will send a message at 1 o'clock. So email your administrator account will expire in 2 minutes, right? So if you want, you can try to log in and try to reset the password, right? So they will mention some urgency in the emails, right? Sometimes they will give you some promotions, the lottery bonds. Likewise, they will give some benefits. That email says you want that much of money, or you have one visa, or you have one flight tickets for some places. Likewise, they will increase your desire to click those things, right? So better avoid those type of things, right? Sometimes they will send an invoices or shipping details, right? Your product is shipped. Normally nowadays, most of the people are purchasing products throughout the online platforms, right? So now they will send your purchase order is come to that customs, right? To clear the customs, you need to log in and enter your contact number. Likewise, they will do something similar to the real scenarios, right? Now what you can do, just without considering anything, just you can try to log in the details and you can provide your username and password. So at the time you lost everything, right? You can steal the information. They can use your credential and try to do whatever they want, right? Within 1 or 2 minutes, they will do changes your passwords and everything. Then they will do whatever the corruptions they can do with your accounts, right? So that's a normal thing happen with the phishing attacks, right? So sometimes they will send the notification similar to the credit card companies, right? Fake accounts or social media sites. Likewise, there are nowadays they are using as a common baiting techniques, right? So to do the phishing attacks, they will utilize the human psychology, human interest, and the human behavior. Based on the behavior, they try to send an email, right? So maybe some that baiting technique is similar to your interest. Those interests they will find out based on your browser cookies or based on your web surfing. They will find out those things, right? So based on that, they will send these type of phishing emails, right? So now this is an example phishing emails, right? If you receive any phishing email based on these some of the characters, we will verify whether it's a genuine or it's a fake, right? So normally if it's a phishing emails, the grammar mistakes are there, right? Most of the time, the poor grammar, punctuations, and uh, uh, grammar mistakes, if you have in your email, we can find out whether it's a phishing, right? Sometimes in your mail, they will mention some of the urgencies, right? Urgency means within 5 to 10 minutes, you need to complete the task, right? If you get that type of mail, don't do the task what they are mentioned to do, right? There are some urgencies. Similarly, if you move your cursor above that links, right, the link, it will display something, but it will redirect to some of the unwanted sites, right? So if you look at here, that email is telling Office 365 mail verification, right? But if you move your cursor it says HTTPS Bittermate or something, right? If you look at this domain and this domain, totally different, right? So your email subject is says Office 365 mail verification. Now what will happen if you move the cursor? Anyhow, the domain name may be related to Microsoft Office 365. But here what it says, it's something different domain name. So based on that, we can find out this is not actually coming from Office 365. Someone tried to do some phishing attack with us. This is one way we can find out the phishing emails, right? So the recipient, the person who sent the email, their domain name is something, right? But the link they are giving to fill the form or something is totally different domain names, right? So based on that, we can find out. Sometimes in the email, let's say normally Microsoft send customer support Microsoft.com or Microsoft support.com, right? But if you send an email, phishing email, that one also similar to the Microsoft support, but anyhow, they are using some of the full stop characters or some of the special characters in the middle to hide whether they will look at it is similar to the Microsoft genuine email, right? So anyhow, their domain names will have some variations, right? So based on the factors, we can find out the phishing emails, right? So can you look at some phishing things here? And Bank of America is there, right? But if you look at here, right, yeah, if you move the cursor, it will show some different sites, right? Uh, just look at here. If you look at the from, right, it says the profile name Bank of America. But if you look at this email ID, it is not related to the domain name, right? If it's a Bank of America, normally they will use the same domain name, right? So if you compare the profile name and domain name, you can verify it's totally different. So it is not actually coming from that Bank of America. Someone try to do the phishing attacks against you, right? Sometimes they will give some urgencies, right? Once you read the mail, you can realize, right, whether it's a phishing or not, right? Right now, if you look at the subject line of the phishing emails, most of the time these are some of the common subject lines, right? They will request something, they will follow up, urgency, right? Are you available? Payment status, the purchase invoice, right? Reply mails, right? These are some of the major subject lines they are using to do the phishing attacks, right? Okay, now we will look at how to protect against phishing. Okay, now we will look at the last topic, how we can avoid to protect against phishing attacks, right? The first thing, stop, think, and connect, right? So before click or before open the email and do the form filling or clicking, just think about, just open the email, just analyze who is that person send the email, whether the sender's email ID is related to the content, the domain name is matching. Just move the cursor, don't click, just move the cursor and check whether the domain name and the link they are giving is the same, right? Or the link they are provided to click is totally different domain. So just think first, apply your sixth sense, and you can take a decision before you click the phishing emails, right? Also, you need to maintain some antivirus softwares, right, for your devices, for your electronic devices. You can install some antivirus softwares to avoid these type of phishing attacks, right? You can use email filters, right? So you can use email filters. If you're getting phishing email, they will automatically filter and send to the spam folders, right? So another thing, be aware if someone asking your passwords or your login credentials throughout whatever the online sites. Normally, the banks or whatever the standard organizations, they will not ask you the login credentials from the users, right? So keep in mind, if someone asks you user credentials or passwords, or you try to log in your accounts, it is not a proper approach. It is not a good practice. It will not always ask by the traditional organization, standard organization. They are not asking from the users of all the customers, right? So keep in mind if someone asks, right? So another thing, don't send your passwords or emails as other bank details throughout the emails, right? Or other personal information, don't send throughout the emails. Someone asks those details, don't send, right? So sometimes if they will ask you to click the some hyperlinks, right? So if they ask you to click the hyperlinks, don't click the hyperlink directly, right? So maybe you can copy the URL and just paste the URL in a in a notepad and look at whether the domain name is something ambiguity or the domain name is not something confused, right? Based on that analyze, then only you try to click whether you are believe you ensure the integrity of the URL, right? So always you need to examine the website closely, right? If you are get something, if you are get as an email to promotions or you some offers or some uh, urgent requirements or urgent login, just first observe and analyze the things, right? Examine the website before you enter to the sites, right? So these are the things we need to practice to avoid phishing attacks, right?